Oh my god. 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 Oh my god.
Today I will show you 5 common problems which you can fix from post-production if you're editing a non-professional documentary. A lot of the magic happened even before they started shooting. So I met up with the director and she gave me the script which I copied into my Google Docs, and here you can see that there's the image, the sound and style, and the location, and then I added another line for editing tips, but I ended up writing them right in the script anyways because it's the script for me. I gave their tips and ideas and I tried to capture the vision of the director. There were supposed to be like dream sequences, and then the documentary itself, and how much b-roll we have, how much like old photos from the era we are doing the documentary about, how much of that we have. So it would be easier for me to understand what you wanted to feel. And so I wrote everything down in these tiny bullet points. You can clearly see that like there's a lot of them, but basically everything you can write it down because you will probably forget it. Then we went through how long the video is supposed to be. She got a budget for a 15-minute film. It's supposed to be between 15 and 20 minutes, so that's really important for later editing. It's also important for one more reason. Sometimes the director forgets some things that you need in post-production, and if you wouldn't tell her, then you wouldn't have it.
You forgot something.
Also, talking with the director gives another layer of creativity to that because you know different things than the director, than the cameraman, and if you talk things through, maybe you can give an even better vision for the film. Then I created a short schedule to get an idea of what everything needs to be done. So the recording, that was not up to me, but it needed to be done. The first thing I would do was a rough cut, then shorten it, then make color grading version 1, text and animations, get feedback on the first edit and which parts should go out and which parts should stay, especially if they don't know if the respondents will answer the questions directly or indirectly. Then think about the full picture of the film. Like, is it solving the purpose that it's supposed to be? Is this showing the vision that we wanted it to show? Like, are people taking away what we want them to take away from the film? Then authorization by respondents, which means we will send the video to the people who were talking in the video if they're okay with everything, if they like what they say, or if they want something changed. Sometimes it happens. Then another feedback, finalization, and then party. So that was the first edit. Obviously, how it looks now, it's yeah, this is the timetable now. Obviously, there weren't just 6 steps. There were more like 200, like tiny changes. Like those are like feedbacks and things that could not be changed because the camera screwed up, because the audio is bad, and then some messages came through. But that's the first part. Create a really good time schedule, and then you'll have an idea of if you can make it to the deadline, or if you need more people to edit, or whatever happens, you'll at least see if you're being screwed or not.
Oh yeah, we are screwed.
The second tip I will give you is file organization. So these guys shot the film, they've got all the data, they've got all the videos, all the b-roll, all the audio, all the old photos, which are really important for a documentary like this, and then it's one giant mess. So what happened in this documentary is it was shot in 6K RAW, and so we had to buy another disc. In our case, it was the Samsung's T7, which is really fast, so it's enough for 6K files to edit. And currently, it's a 1TB disc, and currently it's 722 gigabytes of just this one documentary. If you're shooting in high resolution, prepare your storage. So the first thing we did is put all the photographs, the old photographs, in one folder so we can find it in one click. That was easy enough. Then we took all the sounds and organized this into these files and renamed them after the scenes they were shot at. If these were sounds of nature, which in this case there were a lot of them, we renamed them what they were. So here we have a bird chirping, there's rain falling in a puddle, another rain falling in a puddle, rain falling on leaves, another rain, detail of the river or the stream or the brook or the creek. I feel like they're the same things, but I'm pretty sure they aren't. All the dialogues showed by the audio guy are renamed with the same number as the videos, so you can easily find which 2 files to connect. But if you're smart enough, it probably isn't your case because most cameras have an audio input where you can input the sound directly and you don't have to like align it in the editing app. I wish I had told them this, but I somehow thought they knew that they can do that. But it's not a problem because you can align it pretty easily because they had the clapper. So if you have separate files, you can probably find it by the date and time shot. Easy enough, right? Then there is the folder for all the old b-roll, and b-roll usually doesn't need to be renamed. There's just like a lot of stuff. Don't waste your time doing it unless you have a lot of b-roll and a lot of different types of b-roll for different people. Those are shot by the main camera. Then we had 2 other cameras, and it's pretty important to have them separate so they would not like mix up. So we also had drone shots and we had GoPro stuff, which ended up not being that useful because they have such different color profiles that it didn't really fit in there. But we used it in the opening shot and that was enough for the use of it. So this is the disc I got, and then I created something in a folder called extras where I put all my stuff that I need later and that doesn't really belong anywhere. So there's stuff for the animation, the stuff for stills, for a thumbnail, so like shots from the film, and my own created music and stuff. Now that I think about it, another thing I should show you, it also means organizing your stuff in your editing program. So just remember to organize your files. It will make your work later so much easier because you will be adding stuff, getting more photographs, or maybe some B-roll, or maybe reshooting some stuff. Knowing where to find those stuff easily is really important. This probably doesn't count as a full tip, but remember to choose your editing program correctly, especially if you have a specific camera. Like this was shot on a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K, which basically limits me to use DaVinci Resolve software from Blackmagic. I mean, it doesn't, but also it's the most effective software for their own camera. And especially for long videos and documentaries, DaVinci Resolve is like really handy because like when I want to input anything anywhere, I just take it and I can put it wherever I say it. It will move everything. This was really handy for this really long edit, especially if the director was always changing stuff afterwards. For example, I like editing in Hitfilm more, but for this one I had to learn this editing program just to make it more effective. Bonus tip. Speaking of effective editing, if you like editing in Premiere Pro, Hitfilm or any other software, but you're missing the features of DaVinci Resolve and the audio technicalities and noise reduction, Adobe just dropped the AI podcast studio thingy where you can input any audio file and it will spit out clean studio quality sounds. So you can try that to step up your audio game. I will not go through the process of editing because you're probably not here for that. But let me show you what I did to fix some camera problems that happened because they had a handheld camera for some reason or another. Not my choice, but this is how some scenes look like. I made a green marker over here so I can see like where from the shots are usable. Because up until this point it's been all over the place. The camera has been like shaking and searching for the person. Problem is, this is the first shot of these people. I don't have anything before that and I don't have any B-roll that would show the people. Well, I do, because sometimes this girl was really looking for stuff with her camera. I don't know why, but in this case it saved us. For example, over here, she started shooting like a glass and his environment stuff, which could also solve the purpose of a B-roll shot, if that makes sense enough. So I found one shot and then I had to zoom it in. If some shots are bad, just zoom them in. I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's a documentary, it's not like a 6K film. It's going to be on the internet, it's not going to be in cinemas. So all the way until the green marker, I had to cover it with something. My first try was to cover it with the hand which you've just seen, but that made them look like alcoholics, so we had to change it up. We also found some B-roll of them showing us their old photos of their family, and apparently we could use them, so we threw that in. And now the shot looks like this.
Ja som sa tu narodil, otec asi sa tiež tu. No v 5. roku to je akože, myslím, že bolo stávané papieriky.
1905.
How can you fix bad handheld camera though? Well, in documentaries, it's not really the best type of camera, but if you had nothing else to work with, then I guess that's what you have. If you can't fix it, own it. Really, the really bad parts, you can cover them with B-roll, and all the cuts you can cover with B-roll, but let the camera wonder if these were the shots they were looking for. Just keep in mind that if everything is moving and the camera is like really lively, you have to make everything else subtle. For example, look at this text. Look at how it slowly came in. It's not moving, it's just like staying there so you can read it calmly, because everything else is just moving all around the place. Okay, so that's the kind of movement that you cannot fix. What you can do is cover it with B-roll, even though sometimes it doesn't really look good. I also used the shot of another person talking, even though this person wasn't even really in that shot. It's like from a completely different scene, but we just had to fix it. So now it looks like this.
To sa volalo vždy Karloveský potok, alebo Čierny, lebo my to voláme aj Čierny potok.
Tak by sa tomu hovorili, že Malá Vidrica.
Vidrica je tam ďalšia dolina.
Je zoologická záhrada, tak
to je Vidrica.
A toto sa prečo tomu hovorili, že Malá Vidrica.
Fair enough. So another way you can fix a shaky camera or wandering camera is J-cuts and L-cuts. So if you look at these shots over here, they're overlaying each other, and I'm using B-roll to manage them. Like for example, in this section of the dialogue, she like wanders with the camera over to the place he's talking about. He's talking about this grassy field where once there was the break, and you can see that he is talking about the new sentence, but we are still seeing the shot from the wandering part. And that's how we create something called the J-cut, like the audio is on the left side, even though it's already finished. Here's how it sounds.
To je 3 metre priemer, čo je slušné. Ani v tom lišťom údolí už ten podok ani není vidno, že tam je. Tam je ten prítok pri tých schodoch.
Problem solved, right? So what can you do if you don't have enough B-roll? This happens a lot, and it's not really anyone's fault. It's just sometimes the people talk way too long and you just forget to capture everything.
You never stop talking!
I mean, look at this. This is the whole part where people talk, and this is how much B-roll we have. This, well, plus this, which are drone shots, but they're only from certain locations, and we are missing so much. And they're talking about something completely different. So drone shots are always nice because they provide something like a different view on the same problem, but they just can't go everywhere. So one of the options you have is if you have a person walking in the room or out of the room, or just walking around the location where you have been, just take some parts where he doesn't talk and use them as covering footage for places where the camera is either too shaky or you just have to cover it. Or if you don't have enough B-roll, like right here, he's already talking, but I'm still using the B-roll of him walking around because the camera was not really usable back then. Not the best, but it works. Another option you have is flipping the footage, either vertically or horizontally or any direction you want. Zooming in and make it a little different. For example, this shot was already flipped once, like this is the original shot and I flipped it, and it already fixes some of the problems, especially if the documentary is long. People don't tend to remember every single shot unless they're like really either important shots or too contrasty shots. So you should be fine by using the same B-roll twice or maybe even 3 times. Another thing you can do is coloring it a little differently. I didn't do this in any of the shots, but I did it on photos. Like one of the photos looked black and white and the other photo looked like a sepia, like an old sepia photo. And I flipped it and I changed the colors, and you will never know it's the same photo. Well, you will if you watch it twice, but who watches a documentary twice? One more thing you can do is reversing the same clip. So I have a drone shot of a park coming in. I was talking about how we used to come to the park, and then how it used to be green and stuff. And then a few minutes later, we come to the same shot, but it's backwards. And voila, we have 2 shots from 1 shot. Another great tip. For this particular documentary, we made animations, and they are also really handy if you have them in high resolution, because you can also zoom them in, reverse them, make a static shot, and there are so many options with them. If you talk in your documentary about something that can have animation, animations are also a great way to keep the people engaged. When this documentary went through the feedback stage, people loved the old photos. And if you're making a documentary about something that either changed in the past, or you're talking about the history, you're talking about people who used to live in some kind of era, photos, old photos, sketches are also a great way to keep people engaged.
We are so old.
But in this particular documentary, where the camera is like way too lively and it would be really boring, what can you do with boring photos? Zoom them in, them out, make them come from one side to the other. Especially in DaVinci Resolve, there is this thing called dynamic zoom, which does it for you. Another tip, give it an original transition which you will keep for the rest of the documentary. But 1, it will make your life so much easier if you don't have to change transitions every single time. Number 2, showing the same transition every single time makes people used to the way you're showing photos, and they will go, oh, another photo comes, great, I'll see another photo. Unless you want to change it, if it's traditional documentary, you usually don't, so keep the transition simple. In this case, I used this burn effect transition, and it makes the simple photos look like they're just being captured again. See how on one photo I zoom in, and on the other photo I zoom out. If you have more photos next to each other, change it up a little. In, out, left, right, don't do in, or left, or something like that. You get the point. If some photos are horrible, you can try to fix them in in the coloring tab. If photos don't look good in monochrome, you can try to get to the curves tab, grab red, and make them like sepia yellow. And if you didn't know this, you should subscribe. Here comes the tricky part, the end credits. I thought it was easy enough just slapping all the names behind each other and that's it, right?
You are wrong!
When I showed this to my film teacher, apparently it's much more complicated than it looks. This is the name of the film, but it doesn't need to be there. This is who it was paid by. It's the first slide because, well, it's their money. Sometimes you cannot change logos. You really always have to ask because for some reason they do not want a monochrome logo. So here's what I did. So I had to Google how they look like and what color they use the logo on. And it's white. So I used white as the underlying layer, and I don't really know who gave them yellow and white. But that's what they wanted, so that's what they got. Here come the people who were in the film, and they start by a little letter, not by a big one, because it's not a sentence. And also, you can see that I removed all the commas and everything else because it's not a sentence, apparently. Here come the director, the camera, the sound, and then me, post-production and drone photography and drone videos. And also, it's not a sentence, so every job title starts with a small letter, unless you want it a different way, and then the names are obviously in big letters. I used bold so it doesn't like fall into the same category. Then we have thanks for inspiration, then we have the thank you for all people that helped, and then we have sources for the photography and for some other stuff that was used in the film. And then in the end, I'm using a copyright for the director because even though it was sponsored by someone else, the author of the film is still the director. So keep that in mind. But there's also the logo of the people who paid it because, well, it's their money. And that's why it's so important to ask for feedback, because sometimes people give you some really interesting things that you would maybe not even think of in the first place. So this particular video went through 3 or 4 rounds of feedback, and it has, and we did 9 renders up until now, and there may be one more because of one shot which may have been just screwed up, but it wasn't my idea. I thought it was bad, but they wanted it there, so we'll see if they have anything else to fix. Bonus tip, while we are talking about text, you may have noticed that I leave quite some room between lower thirds texts and other information, and that's because it's a documentary which may be presented in weird places, like over here, or played on a loop in a museum where there's not quite enough room to play it in 16:9. So keep in mind where it's going to be played, and your forcing may pay off. You want to know how to create simple animations? Let me show you. So the first thing is taking a giant screenshot of your Google Maps location. You can take it directly from Google Maps, or in my case, I need a much bigger area. So I will take this system and I will find it. There it is. We will choose a satellite map. We're back to San Francisco, so we'll just go back to Europe. There's Czech Republic. There should be Slovakia somewhere. So I found my city. Think so? No, I didn't. Oh, it's a different city. Well, it doesn't matter. It will shove in, set the dimension. What it will do is it will render out the whole map, and then you will need something that can take that extra screenshot. Then just click the icon and tell it what you need. It will start capturing, zooming in and out. Don't get scared, it's just doing its thing. That will export it and give you the full screenshot in full render. These screenshots can take loads amount of space because they are just huge. This is 50 megabytes and the full thing is 130 megabytes for one image. So just remember to not make the screenshot too big. The next thing you will do is open up Photoshop, put your screenshot over the whole thing and in the size where you want it. For me, the vertical type worked better because I will be zooming in and moving the camera down. So I need the photo to be vertical so I can zoom it in. Slash the map in, smash over the map where the road would go, then paint over it the thing which you need, which in my case is this blue line. I just drew it from the original screenshot, and that's where the line will go. Now, simple enough, export both layers separately. So export the map, and then you just export the line as PNG with transparency turned on, or if it doesn't work, you can also change the blending mode in your editing software later. Then go to your favorite editing software. I chose Hitfilm because it For me, it works better for animations. Create a new project. I chose 4K and the highest resolution so I can zoom it in later if I need to reframe something. So, slap in the map. Giant, it's humongous. You will need to maybe move the layer and stuff. I know this looks like After Effects, but you can do this in any editing software. It's not a problem. Then slap in blue line which you created or the line where you needed the thing to go. Now I can create a point so I can move both layers, but you don't have to. What you can do instead is as high resolution as possible and then zoom it in later once the animation is created. How to do the animation, how to animate this line? It's simple enough. Create a new mask and we will shape it. So I only have 2 points here. Oh wait, you cannot see the other one. Well damn, how do I show you the other one? You can see there are just 2 points created. So what I did is I created one tiny mask in the beginning, and in the end I created the mask where it would show the whole thing. And now the mask will move from one point to another and slowly show the animation. Like right here, it's this big, then it's bigger. It automatically changes the mask size, so when it reaches the other point, it will have the full size. Now, if you can't have the option to create a point, what I did is I just linked both layers, the map and the line, to this point. But you can also copy the same attributes and move both of the layers at the same time. This is just a bit easier. I animate the position at the start, and let's put it over here so you can actually see it, like I wanted to go over here. And now the whole thing will move with the animation. Simple enough, right? Now we can just export it, move it back to DaVinci Resolve, and that's it. So if you need to, you can reanimate it afterwards if it's in good enough resolution. We exported it at 4K, which means that we can zoom it 2 times without losing any detail. So I turned on dynamic zoom and it will automatically zoom in. Oh, wait a minute. Now it's zooming out. We'll swap it, and now it should be zooming in, slowly going in, and you can zoom it in any way you want, and it should be completely fine. Go crazy. Okay, so ease it in, zoom it out, do whatever you need to. Just remember to add the Google and Maxar satellite information because apparently it's pretty important for them. And if you didn't know this, you should subscribe. And if you like documentaries, check this video about these RGB lights right now, because these can save you a lot of money. Okay, goodbye.